Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, certified financial planner and owner of Elevation Financial. You can find me on the web at elevationfinancial.com. Today, how to set up a household budget. We're going to give you a template for categories and groups and how to use it. So budgeting is obviously one of my love languages. I'm a big fan of budgeting, as many people know. And budgeting is hard. It's a struggle for many people. I also think it's a superpower. So if you get really good at budgeting, every other aspect of your financial life gets better. I feel so strongly about this. And there are many ways to budget. There's including, zero-based budgeting is one way to budget, reverse budgeting, flow-based budgeting. I've talked about these different styles before on this show, and different methods work for different people. So personally, I'm a fan of zero-based budgeting using a tool called You Need a Budget, or YNAB for short, YNAB. And I'm also a YNAB certified coach, so I'm obviously really bought in. And I often help my clients build and maintain a budget that keeps them on track toward their goals. So YNAB uses a zero-based budgeting approach, which means that every dollar gets a job to do. So it means setting up detailed categories in order to make intentional decisions about where your money goes. So whether you're using YNAB or something else, it's really vital to get your budget categories set up in a way that helps you make progress toward your goals. So when you're first setting up your budget for the first time, it can really be intimidating to, stare at a blank sheet of paper, so to speak, trying to come up with your budget categories. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, which is why I want to provide a template for setting up your budget with categories and groupings. So I'm going to share this budget template today that I use with my clients to get them started. So it's kind of hard to share a template on an audio podcast. So this really kind of goes in tandem with the article this week. So as you may know, every podcast episode I do also has an article version on my website. So this particular version, if you go to episode 205 of the podcast on my website, you'll see a link to the article version of this that has the actual template. It's a Google Drive template. So if you need that, go get it. I'm going to talk through it today as well. But this is one of those episodes where it's really important or really helpful probably to go get the article, which has the link to the template that you can use as a visual as well. So a few things to note for context as well before I jump in. So I have a strong bias towards simplicity. So you might think as we go through this that certain categories should be broken out into more detail, but I like to keep things simple for ease of use and for maintenance. So if a system is too complex, it's more likely to be abandoned. So I say keep things simple. Also, this template is designed to help you keep spending under control while also keeping your long-term goals on the radar. And it's a template. Just a reminder, it's not the perfect budget. Customize it the way you want. There's also a link at the end of that article I referenced to a Google Sheets file that you can download or copy for your own use. This template also follows my banking structure, which means that large irregular expenses are paid from a short-term savings account. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go as well. So let's dig into the budget template. So how to group your budget categories is first. So when organizing your budget, it can be really helpful to group your categories in a way that helps you see broad priorities. So I go with these broad groupings: life goals, household operations, and discretionary spending. Just those three. Yes, it is possible to break it down into more groupings. You could get really detailed and so forth. But really, what my goal is to keep it very simple and also to have groupings that you can dig into if you need to make adjustments. So, one of the first places that you would probably look at if you want to cut spending would be discretionary spending. That's a really easy way to see what's discretionary and what's mission critical for the household. And then life goals are things that you are really important to you, things you value that you want to really keep, distinct and visible because you want to make sure you don't forget about those things. So these three I find work really well, these broad groupings. So again, they're designed to be functional without getting too in the weeds. Life goals are for big picture things we value highly, such as planning for the future. The household operations group is for must-haves to operate the household. And discretionary spending is for things we want, but don't necessarily need. Technically, life goals are also discretionary, but I think it's really essential to place them into a distinct category because they're often forgotten or they're placed on the back burner. So it's really important to keep things like retirement savings front and center. Because we tend to overlook long-term goals, I like to place the life goals group at the top. So next is household operations, which contains everything we need to keep the household running. It includes things like mortgage, rent, food, utilities, transportation, and other things that are true necessities. And then discretionary spending is for things you want and enjoy, but aren't mission critical to run the household. So let's see a template of what those categories might look like. So under life goals, often we see things like short-term savings, long-term investing in retirement savings, kids 529 accounts, if that's relevant, travel and vacation funding, charitable giving. Those are things that would be considered life goals. So building up short-term savings, long-term retirement savings, kids' college savings, these are all pretty important life goals that are, common to many of us. So one thing that trips many people up is lack of consistency regarding these things, especially travel. It's really common for vacations to destroy a budget because it was paid in chunks out of cash flow, or even worse, in my opinion, put on a credit card with no plan of paying it off. So I recommend setting up separate accounts for anything that is a larger, irregular expense. This helps you keep your household budget running smoothly and consistently. You want to avoid big vacations in cash flow as much as possible. So you want to, I'm sorry, variations. I said vacations. You want to avoid big variations in cash flow as much as possible. Thinking of the vacation account. So again, avoid those variations in cash flow. Keep it smooth if possible. So you set up a separate bank account for travel and vacations. Then you save a regular monthly amount into this account. This helps you keep your household budget consistent and predictable while building up a travel and vacation budget. And then you use your travel and vacation account to pay for vacations so it never hits your household budget. The same goes for investing. Setting up automated recurring transfers into your investment and retirement accounts, which includes 529 accounts, is the best way to keep your household budget predictable while keeping your investment plan on track. So under household operations, let's hit that next. Household operations often contains budget categories like mortgage or rent, car payment. I put tithing in mine because I attend church. We do tithing. If that doesn't apply to you, you leave it out. Groceries and household supplies, taxes. If you're self-employed, you need to set aside money for quarterly estimated taxes. Again, if you're not self-employed, this category may not apply to you. Transportation, auto insurance, um, life insurance, home alarm system, utilities, stuff for kids' school, if that's applicable, internet, cell phones, health and medical expenses. I put haircuts in here as well. We got to have a haircut usually. Home maintenance, auto maintenance, bank fees, stuff that's mission critical that you just have to have. It's pretty self-explanatory, things you can't compromise on. They're necessary parts of being a human in your household. While debts are included in this example, and consist of mortgage and car loans, any other debts would also go here. So this is because debts are obligations that have to be paid and therefore go into household operations. Some people would say, well, you should put debts in their own category. Well, why? You could do that, but again, the purpose is to clearly see what things are mission critical that you can't compromise on. And that's what this grouping is. You really typically can't compromise on debts. You've got to pay your debts or things start to get bad. So you want to make sure that you put those in those household operations groupings. And then discretionary spending. So this often contains things like eating out, clothing, maybe personal fund money if you're, in a relationship and you kind of set aside your own personal fund money, gifts, streaming TV services, kids and family activities, books, kids allowance, software subscriptions, fitness and wellness, entertainment, babysitting, dry cleaning, professional fees of various nature, miscellaneous stuff. So, your categories will be different, but these are this is a starting point that I see often as a template. So, these are things that are not absolute needs and in theory have some flexibility. So let's talk about how to manage your cash flow with the budget. So once your budget is set up, you can use it to start getting better control of your cash flow. So whether you're using a budget app or a spreadsheet, this structure can help you maintain visibility into your spending and make better decisions. Note this is only an example. This is your budget and you get to decide what's important to you. For example, in this template, tithing is included because my family gives to our church, as I mentioned already. However, if you're not religious, then this category wouldn't apply to you. You would take it out. There's also likely categories missing that you might need to add. Another example, health and medical is a category I put under household operations, while fitness and wellness is under discretionary spending. So the latter category could contain things like gym memberships or fitness apps. Now, you might decide those things are non-negotiable and should go under household operations. That's up to you. You get to decide. Just be honest with yourself and be rational about it, but you get to decide where these things go. Also, remember, keep in mind that large, irregular expenses come out of your short-term savings account, which you're hopefully saving into each month. So for example, an oil change would fit into your household budget because it's a small amount. I would just kind of put that under cash flow. That's, 20, $30. But unexpected major engine work would come out of your short-term savings. Let's say it's a, $2,000 car repair or something, that's hitting that against your cash flow is impractical. So we want to take that from short-term savings, which is basically your emergency fund plus extra for irregular expenses. When you're making decisions about your budget, you get to decide what you value as long as the math works. Prioritizing one thing generally means deprioritizing something else. So keep that in mind. You've got to make the math work. So again, I want to mention, if you want this template in the form of an Excel spreadsheet, you can customize for yourself. You can grab a copy in Google Sheets. Google Sheets lets you copy it to your own Google Drive, or you can download it as an Excel spreadsheet. And it's got kind of some sample numbers in there as well. So again, this is episode 205. So go to my website, look for episode 205 of the podcast. You'll see a link there into the article version, and that will have the link to the budget template. So you can download that as a spreadsheet or copy it to your own drive and modify it if you need it, or just kind of reference it. So I'll wrap up by saying a budget, in my opinion, is very empowering. There's different philosophies when it comes to budgeting. Some people are anti-budget, others swear by it. Some people say budgets are too restrictive and they hate it. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, that's fine. My personal opinion is that a budget is empowering. It gives you freedom. Once you get clear and intentional with your cash flow, the rest of your financial life improves and you can progress much faster toward your goals. So I'm a big fan of using a budget as a blueprint for managing your cash flow, and every other part of your financial life typically improves if you get really, really good at budgeting. I think budgeting is a superpower. So I hope this template has been helpful. Again, the visual is going to be really helpful. So especially go get the article, go check out the categories, go get the spreadsheet, use that as a template if you're setting up a budget. And I'm hoping this will help you get started in an easier way than just kind of staring at a blank budget. So with that, as always, happy to chat. If you ever have questions, you can reach out through my website, which is elevationfinancial.com. You can send me a note, or you can book a complimentary money session online if you'd like to dig deeper, ask me more questions, and or find out more about what it looks like to work with me as a client. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.